Alright, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Little Man, Big Conversations. Hey, if you're listening to this episode off the back of the Brandy Alexander Part 1 and Part 2 episodes, then you're in for a treat, because this here is the second episode of the two-part episode bomb drop that I was speaking about. On this episode, I get to sit down and have a chat with one of Queensland's premier wrestlers. He was arguably there at the beginning, and 20 years later, he is still helping pave the way, create some superstars of today. He's been through the highs, he's been through the lows, and hell, he cooks up a mean Alaska. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back and enjoy my conversation with Queensland's premier wrestler, BJ Blade. So here we are, Little Man, Big Conversations. I'm really excited. I've known this man for way too long. I don't know how we're friends. It still weeks me out to this day. I pay tribute to this guy every time I wear a bandana. He doesn't believe me, but it's true. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. BJ Blade. BJ, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good, Flash. How are you?
Man, it's exciting. Like, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I've always wanted to get people on here. People say I have the gift of the and or gab. So this is really exciting. I'm really thankful for the time that you've given me to pretty much interview you. I was going to say introduce you. I've already done that. To interview you, to have a chat to you, and just basically, I want to have a big conversation with you and just break the mold and find out for everyone that listens just who you are and what exactly it is that you do and how the hell we've got to know each other. So, are you ready for that?
Yeah, man. Well, straight off the top, I'll just say that Lee is going to be pissed. Just one more thing. I've topped him at not putting him over again.
Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna
He'll always be number two. When it comes to me and him, he'll be number two. Always.
I'm gonna cop a lot of audio heat. Probably maybe some real life heat for a while.
No, he'll be sweet.
If you don't hear from me in 3 days, he hasn't gotten over it. So man, I guess we'll take people back to, I think, when was the first time that you can recall that we first met each other? I feel like it was the 2010 IPW reunion show. Was that the first time that you had come back to IPW in a wrestling aspect at that point?
I hope your memory is better than mine because I've got no idea, honestly. I can't remember, to be honest. Like the last 18 or so years for me, apart from like when I started and when I've just most recently finished up, everything else in between is pretty much a blur at this stage, to be honest.
Well, I feel like that was the first time that I'd met you. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first reunion show where you came back and I think you had a triple threat match with Lee and I think it was with Cruz. I think the three of you did something. Yep. And I knew of you from the fact that you had been there, and when I joined IPW, I was studying at the time doing university, doing a film degree, and that sort of entailed doing editing. So I was given the video library to the old MIW, which was what IPW was formerly known as Major Impact Wrestling, and there was a lot of tapes on there of yourself and Cruz and Scott Black and Jethro and Jackaroo and Dallas and Island Boy. So I got sort of an influx of all these people. So I was kind of nervous the first day, well, the first time that I heard that you were coming back, because prior to having the video footage, I knew that you were involved with PWAQ, but that wasn't happening. I don't think that was happening for you anymore at that stage, but that's where I knew where you were at that point before the reunion show. So I remember when you walked in, I was like, oh my God, he's real. Like, it kind of felt like a mirage. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, but yeah, I think that was the first time that we had met each other. And what was that reunion show like for you? Because I know for myself, being a younger guy on the roster, that was kind of just a oh, who are these guys? But I felt differently with it in the sense of, because like I said, I'd been exposed to all that footage. To me, it was like, wow, these guys are really here. This is really nostalgic to a certain extent. But what was that like for someone of your caliber that had come through Major Impact Wrestling, that had seen the change from WCW to IPW to now coming back after all the adventures that you had? What was that moment like for you?
Very nerve-wracking, actually, because up to that point, I hadn't wrestled for 4 years. So it had been a long time off.
Yep.
And honestly thought it would be just going back for sort of one match and that was it, like a one and done.
Yep.
It ended up I had another 6-year run with them after that. So, it was nerve-wracking because you've got a lot of – well, one, I'd put on like about 30 or 40 kilos since I'd last wrestled. So I was a fat tubby piece of shit. And just wondering whether I'd be able to, like, keep up. Saved by the fact that I was in there with Lee and Troy, Jethro and Cruz, made things a lot easier. But, yeah, for sure. I remember turning up to training a few weeks before that because Lee was actually the one that talked me into doing it. He said that Hawk had asked him to do it, and he said, well, I won't do it unless BJ does it. And then Lee called me and said, I'm not doing it if you don't do it. And I said, well, I'll do it. And so he's like, oh, well, I'll do it. And yada, yada, yada. We ended up doing it. So that was I rocked up training a few weeks before the show and saw Hawk and just said, well, if I'm going to do this show, I better get some training in. And, just sort of went from there. Got there on the day. Thought I'd just try a moonsault.
As you do, the classic coming in the doors after 4 years doing a moonsault. Why not?
I remember I got up there and did the move, and Hawk was on the outside of the ring sitting at the announcer's desk, and he just looked up and goes, what the fuck was that? I said, just seeing if I can still do it. So, so that was good. It was good fun. From there, I think I really got motivated again with that time I went back, because then I got to training again. I started to drop weight again. Ended up getting back down to about 90 kilos or 95 kilos, something like that. So I lost about 25 to 30 kilos as well during that period. And I feel that I had some really good matches with some of the young guys too, like coming up, and yourself, obviously. But yeah, it was a lot of fun that last sort of time that I was there. So yeah.
So the reunion show came about because Lee reached out to you and said that, hey, they're doing a reunion show. Do you want to be a part of it? Is that how it came to you being there?
Correct. It's all Lee's fault.
Okay. Did you enjoy? It was nerve-wracking coming back to wrestle, but how was the locker room at that point? Like, obviously there was a lot of new faces, as you mentioned. Was it welcoming? Like, were you nervous of the fact of coming back there, given that you'd gone and wrestled at different promotions? Were you nervous of the fact of, am I going to be ignored in the locker room? Am I going to be sort of given like a cold shoulder? Or did you feel, hey, let's just go and see what happens? Like, what was your incentive what was your mindset outside of the ring heading back into the reunion show?
Initially it was a bit I don't know, it was strange because I hadn't spoken to Hawk in a long time.
Yep.
So just going back there, I can't even remember who it was who I contacted about going down to training beforehand, but it wasn't Hawk. It was someone else, and I can't remember who it was, but they said, yeah, just come down. So I did, and I don't know whether he was expecting me to be there or not. So it was kind of like oh, hey. I was like, yeah, oh, hey. And it was just like old times after that. And
yeah.
I think within a couple of weeks I was back running training classes along with Ash and Scorn and whoever, and Maddie, whoever else was there doing it at the same time. So I had that little bit of time getting to know everyone under my belt before the actual show itself. So that made it a lot easier. And as far as the young guys, they were nothing but respectful. Like, they took everything on board. I think made it easier because Hawk sort of just told them in training too, just like, listen to this guy. So, it was fine. Everyone was really cool.
Yeah, I found that too. Like, I share the same sentiments of, I think I was nervous coming back into there. Being invited back to 10 years later, I should say, the difference between, oh, not 10 years, sorry, 9 years, I correct myself, 9 years from that reunion show to the one that happened in 2019, being invited back to do that, which in a big part was due to yourself and Ash and Cruz and Matt, and a lot of the old school guys that were there when I was coming up in the ranks, voicing their concern and voicing the sort of demand, if you will, for lack of a better term, of wanting my name and who I was in the ring to come back for that show. So I really appreciate the fact that you did that for me professionally to say, look, man, I really think you should essentially come home for that reunion show. But I shared the same vibe because I felt that sort of nervousness, being like, oh, am I going to be given this cold shoulder? Is it going to be sort of awkward? Am I going to be sitting in the locker room by myself? But much to how you were approached coming back after a certain amount of time, yeah, it was nothing but just love and respect. Everyone was so like, hey, man, it's so great to see you back. It's so cool that you're here. And it was almost sharing or mirroring what you went through. It's kind of revealing to hear that, because that is the same sort of vibe that I'd experienced as well. And I think it's a testament of guys like yourself coming back and teaching all the young guys, not so much the moves, because at the end of the day, the moves are easy to a certain extent, but I think just a matter of just respect and camaraderie and just making a fellowship in that company. And I think that's what keeps it standing for the test of time all these years, is the fact that everyone there really loves and appreciates past and present, which is rare now. So I think yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the big things you can take away from being with a group of people, especially in this setting, is that once you make friends with someone, they're friends for life.
Yeah.
And within that group of friends, you may have some that don't get along with each other. But at the end of the day, I always live by the motto is that you can only treat people the way that they have treated you. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a problem with someone, or so I should say, if one of your friends has a problem with another one of your friends, then you've got to kind of let them work it out. And I think by the same token, they can't expect you to take sides, because if you're cool with both people, then there's no reason to ruin that relationship with one person over the other, sort of thing. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I just feel that no matter how long the time is in between, I think that once you've developed that rapport with someone, or have gained that person's respect and they've gained yours, I don't think it matters. I think at any time, like, you've always got someone who will vouch for you. I've met such great people through wrestling, and they're friends for life, and I might not see them for years, or even talk to them for years, but when you walk back in that locker room, it's the same as it used to be. And I don't think the good people I find stick around, and there's a reason for that, because there'll always be people that will say, yeah, bring him in, bring this guy in. He's a good guy, he'll do the right thing. Whereas the other people that don't, I sort of find that over the years, they're the ones that have sort of weeded out or sort of disappeared from the scene. Not everyone, but a lot. You kind of like find the people that are like a true sort of, real people, and they tend to stick around and always have people that will say good things about them. And then there are others that may leave, and, if they try and come back, and there's not really much room for them to do so.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it completely does. And it's a strange thing is that, you can't say have a job. Like whenever I talk about business, I always refer to McDonald's, because I arguably think that they're one of the most successful business franchises of all time. But with McDonald's, you can't sort of work there and then leave and then come back and everyone be like, hey guys, it's me. I used to flip burgers. And then they go, oh, okay. Like it's just like, okay, what do you want? Like you used to work here, you don't anymore. But with pro wrestling, And I think maybe with other sporting teams, but I can only speak on the experiences that you and I share, is that with pro wrestling, you could be gone for X amount of years, but the minute you come back into that locker room, people there are just, it is quite like you said, it's like seeing an old family member. It's like seeing someone that you haven't seen in a while, but no one there has essentially forgotten about you to a certain extent. Like the minute you walk in, everyone's like, oh, wow, what a rush. Like it's all positive. It's all great. And it is pretty much every time you walk into that locker room, it is pretty much like a reunion show every single time because everyone's like so excited to see you again. And it is sort of like, hey, what are you up to? How's your life been? And it kind of really does border the line of an extended family.
Yeah, it does. And you'll find that there's always at least one person, somewhere as well, like who, like I remember I worked my last match actually before I just have given it up for now. Don't call it a retirement. Was at Venom.
Okay.
And that was my last match. Just almost 2 years ago now.
Yep.
But I knew people there. Like I knew people like yourself. Mm-hmm. Like I can't. You Cobra.
Yep.
What's his name? Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't remember everyone who was there, but there were people there that I knew. So as soon as you walk in, it's like, oh, hey man, like, how have you been? And you can start talking to people straight away. And then there's people that I had never met, like Tim, who just come up, but you know of them. So It's kind of like you're strangers, but you're not. And it was easy. Like I had a match with Tim that night, and we got along so well, and he was so cool. And that was one of those times when I didn't know what to expect. Like, am I going to get like ego from this guy, or is it going to be really difficult? And it wasn't. Like as soon as he come up to me and shook hands, it was like, man, this is comfortable. So it was just awesome. Like there's always people, and I think that's one of those things. If you just carry yourself like with dignity, then people will hear about that. Like if you go into a place and you've got a bad reputation, then people are probably going to be a bit standoffish. But if you have a good rep, then there's no reason for people to sort of be shit to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. But we're at the end of the road here. We're at the reunion show. We've spoken about you came back and had a 6-year run. We're talking about the last match you had. But take me back to how the hell did BJ Blade start? Where did you begin? How the hell did you come up with that name? And what was it like when you started? So take me back to day one. So you find out about wrestling training. How did you find out about it? And how did the process begin for you?
WWF Magazine.
Yeah, okay. That's
there was an ad in WWF Magazine when I was 12 years old, and it was for the Ultimate Warrior Pro Wrestling Academy.
Oh, wow. And, did you actually go along to that?
No, God, no. Oh. But at 12 years old, I sort of, my dad said to me, is that what you want to do? And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And he was... had a few beers that night and insisted that I call this phone number in this WWF magazine because like I was like totally, I didn't know anything about wrestling. I thought it was all sort of, you knew there was something, suspect about it, but you didn't know for sure whether it was guys working together. Like you knew it was a bit sort of fake, but.
What was the first match you remember seeing? Because you're saying you're 12 years old and you saw that article when you were 12. But I'm assuming you had exposure to wrestling before that. So do you remember the first match you saw whenever you were first exposed to wrestling?
Yes, it was the 1990 Survivor Series.
Okay,
Yep, that's the first VHS tape that I rented out from the video store. Yep. Because it had the most superstars on the back. And it was the Ultimate Warrior that... The Ultimate Warriors versus the Perfect Team. Mm-hmm. That was the Ultimate Warrior, the Texas Tornado, and the Road Warriors against Mr. Perfect, Demolition. I think it could have been all of Demolition, 3 members at that stage.
Okay. And what drove you to pick that tape up? Like, had you seen wrestling before you picked that tape up, or did you think, hey, these guys are colorful superhero-looking dudes, I'm going to see what this is about?
No, the way I got into wrestling was through Nintendo.
The old Royal Rumble, WrestleMania games?
Yeah, I had a really good friend who, we're talking NES system here, who we used to have heaps of sleepovers as you did at 10, 11 years of age. And we just used to rent out games all the time from the video store.
Okay.
And one of them was WWF WrestleMania Challenge, I think it was called, or something like that.
Yeah, WrestleMania Challenge.
And we were just this game's awesome. And probably I've played it now just recently, and I'm like, this game is so shit. But
it's no mercy.
No, it's no mercy. So from there, it was just we started doing a couple of the moves and stuff, and then no, sorry, that's the wrong way around. We played this game, and then I saw this video, and I'm like, I've got to check what this is like in real life.
Right. Yeah. So you wanted to see
that led me to getting the VHS out, and then from there, then we were just wrestling fans. Then instead of renting games out, then we were renting VHSs out each weekend, sort of thing, until we got to the sports section of a VHS video store back in the day, old Video Easy, just had so many wrestling videos.
Yeah.
And so that kept us going for a while until we actually caught up to 1992, and then you had to wait every 3 months for a new VHS to come out because they only did 4 pay-per-views a year. And those VHSs are actually 3 months behind. The Royal Rumble you'd get in April or something, and then Mania you'd get in, June or July or something. So that was always 3 months behind, and no internet, obviously. So, yeah, but that's how that's. As far as actually getting into the training side of things goes, well, nothing really happened until I was about 18 or 19. No, I was older than that. 20, 21. See, my memory is shit, mate.
That's all right. I believe you.
A friend of mine was down at the rugby league club in Southport, and there was a poster on the wall, and it had Sweet Ass on the poster. And it was live wrestling in Ashmore or Nerang or wherever it was. And he brought it home and he said, have a look at this. And I'm like, what the hell's this? So we never ended up going to the show, but I called the number and I'm like, where can I do this? So that was my first conversation with Hawk. He said, come down and meet me at the adult shop. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I think it was a week later or something, I went down there and went through the front door of an adult shop and into the back room to the casting couch.
Wait a minute. So your first treatment to wrestling was that you called a number for an advertisement you saw in a Southport sports hall, and the owner, which I believe Rugby League Club, right? So you picked up the phone, you called the number, Hawk answered and said, "Meet me at a sex shop." You get to the sex shop, you walk in, what happens? "Hi, I'm here for wrestling," and someone says to you, "Yeah, go out the back." What the hell are you thinking at this point?
I think Hawk was actually sitting at the front desk, and I can't remember exactly how the conversation went, but he took me to this back room and where we could talk about it properly, basically. And he gave me the rundown on hey, how it's not easy and da-da-da-da, and then said, go away and think about it for a week and call me back if you're still interested. So it wasn't a week, it was a day. I said, when can I start training? So yeah, that was it. So every time you went to training, you had to go and check in at the sex shop first before you could go through to the gym. So yeah, and then that was it from there. It was crazy. It was the best time. It was the biggest rush. Taking your first bump and like you said before, seeing these guys, even though they weren't they weren't The Rock or Stone Cold or anything, but they were these big guys. Like, I think one of the first guys I met wrestling name was Thor.
Okay.
And man, he was just a big dude. He was like an ex-bodybuilder guy. And he was just big. And like, I'm not big. I'm like short. I'm a short ass. I'm only, 5'4" or something. So I'm not big. I'm not like a tall guy. And this,
hey man, I feel you.
But yeah, seeing these huge guys and just feeling intimidated by them. And there was Harley Seth. He was there, and it was like this guy dressed like a biker, and it's like, is this his wrestling gimmick or is this in real life sort of thing? And you're very intimidating. So yeah, it was good fun though.
So how was your first training experience? So did you go away for a week and think about it and then come back, or were you there the next day?
Next day I called him and said, I want to do this. I can't remember how long my first training session was after that. But my first training was with his son, Troy, who wrestles by Cruz.
Yep.
So he predominantly trained me for the first 3 months. Okay. And then from there, I think I had my first match after 3 months, and it was with him. Yep. Yeah, it was rushed. My first match was rubbish. Everyone said it was really good. It was like a table match. Like, go figure.
Yeah, wait. Your first match was a table match?
Yeah. Okay. It was,
how was that experience?
Yeah, scary as shit. One of the other wrestlers was out the back, and he's like, chucking a rib on me, saying, when Cruz gets all like, when he's in a bad mood and he's pissed off, he like slams because he used to carry a hockey stick around in backstage. Right. He would be slamming his hockey stick on the ground and that. And of course, like, that's just him getting ready for his match. But here I'm like going like, what the hell? And what's his finish? Oh, it's a leg drop from the top rope. Oh, sick. Oh yeah, he's knocked a couple of guys out with that. And it's like, what the like, really? Okay. Do
you remember who was ribbing you?
I think it was Troll and Weird One mainly.
Yeah, that sounds like something for sure. I got, to put into perspective, I got trolled on my first day as well, and I got ribbed hard by the Sweet Assassin on my first day there. I was managing Blaze, and they'd asked me to come in, and I joined up, and I was so nervous, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go out there. I'm actually gonna live a dream at the moment. And my buddy Blaze had already had a couple of matches under his belt. It's like, it's fine. Once you get out there, you just have the adrenaline hit. And I remember the Sweet Assassin looking up at me and goes, hey man, you should wear this out to the ring. And I went, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah, it will really suit your character. And I went, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm trying to break the ice with a few of these guys. Like, I didn't really know anyone there, and this guy's like helping me out. And I went, wow, yeah, thanks. I'll take this item, and I'll use this in my first match. And this guy's really trying to help me out. What a nice guy. Man, Sweet Assassin gave me a blue sparkly cowboy hat and told me to go out to the ring and said it would be great for my character. He ribbed me hard on my first day. So I feel you. I feel you on the ribbing.
But it was it was good. Like, as far as a match went, it was well, I haven't watched it in a long time, but it was pretty bad. But but it was good. It was good fun. I had like my dad and my uncle was there in the crowd. And just the whole atmosphere of the show, like, it was really like an old school sort of like wrestling show. It was so carny. Yeah. But I remember being backstage and just going, this is the fucking best shit ever. Like, there's like just the noise of the ring and the crowd, and like the whole time there was like music playing in the background, which was like so bizarre, like to be wrestling with like Leonard Skinner or something playing in the background, or like Bruce Springsteen or something. You just like, what the hell's this got to do with wrestling sort of thing? But it's like you're about to lock up and the bell rings and you just hear like just like, I'm just like sitting out the back and just going, man, this is fucking awesome.
Man, there's nothing like getting your ass kicked at Dancing in the Dark.
Oh, it was just, man, it was so bizarre, but it was just so great at the same time. And Yeah, good days, good times.
So how long were you there for? So you had 3 months training, and then your first match was a table match with Cruz. Yeah. And how long were you there for, before you took? What, did you take a break or did you leave? Like how did that come out?
And to be honest, this is where the memory is a little bit hazy, but I think
how convenient.
I think I had because the thing is, like, it feels like longer than it actually was. Yeah. I think when I first started, I was 21. I remember it was June. I don't remember the date, but it was like June the 3rd or something, 2001. Like, that was my first match. Mm-hmm. I think I did maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe to like 2004, at a guess. And then I just decided I was going to have some time off. I can't even really remember why, to be honest. It was just one of those things. It might have been like girlfriend I had at the time or something. It was just like giving me a hard time about it, or maybe a couple of injuries or something. To be honest, it's like really hazy.
So I was going to ask, so it wasn't injury related? Because I know a lot of guys, and you'd know a lot of guys that do take time off when they get hurt and they come back. But you're saying you don't think you were injured at that point?
I honestly don't know. I think it might have just been a combination of things, to be honest. Like, I'm not 100% sure.
What was the schedule like back then? Was it monthly shows or was it weekly?
Monthly.
Okay.
Monthly. I think at one stage when I was there, I think they tried doing fortnightly shows.
Right. Yep.
But that didn't last very long. Mm-hmm. But again, I might get corrected. Like, I'm always like talking to people and they're like, you remember when this, BJ? And I'm like, no, when did that happen? They're like, oh, you remember that? And I'm like, no, can't remember that. Sorry. So I don't know. Like, I'm honestly think I might have a serious problem with like memory loss. But because
well, do you remember? Do you remember, before we continue, do you remember how you got the name BJ Blade? Was that your creation, or did Hawk give that to you?
That was a combination. Okay. I really liked Limp Bizkit.
Okay.
And they had a band member. His name was DJ Lethal.
Yes.
So my name was going to be BJ Lethal, because that's BJ has been my nickname all through, like, since I was in year 5 in primary school, all the way through high school, like, because that's my name, like Ben James. So
sure.
So it was going to be BJ Lethal. And Pete Hawk, he was just like, I think Blade would suit you, Blade. And I'm like, yeah, BJ Blade. And so that's kind of how that came around. And I didn't really like the BJ part too much because of all the, just stupid shit, like, oh, blowjob Blade and like shit like that, Just like, yeah, I haven't heard that one before, like, fuck off. So that was kind of,
hey man,
I tried to drop it for a while and just went by Blade, and it just didn't sort of suit either. But I think the Blade, Pete had a thing, I think, of trying to reuse like certain gimmicks with people. I'm pretty sure he had a Blade before I had been there, just like he'd had a Trash Man before the new Trash Man had been there. So I think there was like certain gimmicks that he tried to recycle a little bit. I think that's how I got stuck with the Blade part. But in the end, it ended up working out, and I that's kind of the one that stuck.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, man, I think Blade worked out better than having a lethal blowjob. I don't know if that would have been something you'd come back from. But okay, so you've got the name.
I've never thought about that before, to be honest.
Well, I'm happy to oblige. So so you've taken the break. It's either the relationship you had at the time or the injury. You're not 100% sure, but so you take the time off. Is this around the time that the PWAQ offer came into play, or was this the XSE thing? Because I know I heard through the grapevine that you were given, or you were poised into, during the time off, you were given the opportunity to work for other federations at that time. Is this around the time this happened?
Yes, around the time. So the XSE thing came first.
Okay. And how did that come about?
Through fucking Lee again. Like,
Okay.
I swear, I think the thing with me in wrestling is like when I'm out of it, or even when I'm in it, I don't really know everything that's going on. Like, I'm kind of like just don't get too much into the gossip. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's just that people just don't like telling me shit. I don't know what it is, but I'm always seems to be the last person to find out something, you know. So, I had been off for about, I'd like to say a year and a half, but I don't think it was quite that long, but it was definitely more than a year. Okay. So I hadn't done anything. And then Lee gets in touch with me and says, hey, man, these other guys that used to wrestle for Pete, they're starting their own wrestling thing, and they want me to be a trainer. Do you want to do it with us? Because that'd be way easier for two of us to do it instead of just me.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, they had some good financial backing. I won't lie about that. They had the money for it. They had big plans, and they were going to pay us to train people. So it was like, shit, yeah, let's get paid to train. So we started off just at a PCYC, just training on like the gym mats. It was a pretty good room, actually, the one at Surfers Paradise. It was like a full like amateur wrestling sort of room. So it was like a full padded floor sort of thing, which was really good. But then from there, it didn't take that long until we were actually in like a warehouse with a ring, gym set, like matted floors, like an office area. Like it was, they'd spent a lot of money on it. It was like brand new ring, brand new gym equipment. It was awesome. Like it was a really good setup. Like you couldn't ask for anything more, really. Okay. So we were just training guys, a few guys from IPW, but MIW back then came over who weren't happy. And 3 shows later, it was all over.
Wow. So, what happened? What happened there? Do you remember why it started so successfully and crumbled so quickly?
Basically, the people who were running it is what you can put it down to, and I don't mean the trainers, but the people who were meant to be making like booking shows and trying to make opportunities for us, just had no motivation. Basically, I just which is really upsetting. Like it started really well. I think it could be the first thing we did, might have been the second, but we actually did like a theatre, not a theatre show, like at the Harbour Town Movie Cinema, like the cinemas. Nacho Libre was just like coming out at the movies. Okay. So we'd set up the wrestling ring at the cinemas for like the premiere day for it.
Oh, wow.
And did some matches there. And our first show, we did it like the Logan Entertainment Centre. I think we had about 600 people there or something, which was like amazing for like a Queensland show at that time. Mm-hmm. And then the next one we did like the Uni Bar where like Pro Wrestling League's done a few of theirs, and it was like not as many people. And then like the third one, I remember being really frustrated with Lee. Just I think, and I may stand corrected, but we were actually on them like, when's the next show? When's the next show? Where's it going to be? And it ended up being out like the back of Logan somewhere, like in some like community hall or something, and it was just 30 people there or some shit like that. It was just, and then after that, it was like that was it. But they were spending money on like just stupid shit, like cars that were like yellow and painted with the logo like all over it and stuff like that. It was just, they were like vanity project sort of things, and it was just a waste of money. Mm-hmm. And the rent that they must have been paying for the warehouse, on top of all the money that they spent on the gym equipment and the ring and everything, yet they weren't doing any marketing or advertising to try and like get more students or like promote the business or anything like that. So it was just bad direction with our focusing energy. And I think that the guy who was running it ended up like fucking the money backer. So then they pissed off with like the money, and then that was kind of it. Like it was, and then that all went to shit. So yeah, it was
So
good time.
they've left town. They essentially left town with all the money. The last show.
Like I said, I don't know exactly the story, but they started, one of the workers started seeing, you know, the money lady, and just started spending like stuff on just shit, and she was basically looking after him pretty much. And then yeah, I think basically it just ran out of money. So just closed it all up. So yeah, very disappointing. Very disappointing. So it was like all, you know, started and done within a year, and it was just such a wasted opportunity. Like it could have been something really good, but just a waste. Just a waste.
Yeah, and then so how long was it after that you got the call from PWAQ?
Like a month or something, I think.
Oh wow, so pretty quick.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Maybe it was longer than that. Again, shady memory, mate. I don't know. It was pretty soon though. It was within a couple of months.
Yeah.
Mason Childs, who was running it back then, he gave me a call. Said, "I'd love you to come in, you and Obi, and
Obi
do a
Cartel.
thing." Yeah, Obi Cartel.
Yep.
So we had a little sort of faction together in MIW called Team Dragon.
Yep.
And that kind of, you know, split apart when I left, and then I can't remember what Obi did after that. I know Obi was at XSE with us, but then he went to Canada, and then he came back, and I think it was after he came back from Canada and the States that we went to PWAC.
Okay.
Which was doing great things. Like, I mean, that was the place to be in the mid 2000s. Like Mason and Coyote, they were doing an awesome job with that promotion. You know, with getting interstate guys. I had some of my best matches like during that time, I think. Or some of my favourite ones at least, anyway.
How long were you at PWAQ for?
Maybe 2 years or something like that.
Okay. And then did you take another break after that, or?
Yeah, because I fell on my fucking head and fractured my sternum. So
wait a minute. How does that happen? What happened?
Back then, I was looking at doing my final run. I was like, I've had enough of this. I was ready to sort of give it up. But like every time when I've gone to do like a final run, I like fuck something up. So I never get to go out how I want to go out. But so I was like having a series of like 3 matches, which was going to be with Mason's group at the time called the Brotherhood, I think it was. So, and Mason was going to be the last guy that I wrestled for my final match. And then before him was, I think it was going to be Sorrow. And then the first match was with Mark Davis.
Okay. Yep.
So we were just having, and we started the match, and we were having a really good match. It's fast pace. It was like going really well. And then we just got to a spot where I was going to hit him with the top rope blockbuster. Mm-hmm. And I went up, and Sorrow came up to grab my leg, and it was too early in the match, so I was kind of like kicking him off. And then because I was like delaying so much, Davis had sort of come in closer, like as you would, and me just being stupid and rushing just went for the move anyway. So instead of sort of somersaulting over the top of him, I kind of went more like up and down. Oh. So I kind of didn't rotate enough and just sort of come down on the back of my head and shoulders. And I seriously in that moment thought I was like paralyzed because I couldn't feel anything. It was such a stinger. And Davis like shat himself and I just said, all I could say was just pin me, just pin me. So he pinned me, and straight away like Obi came out, Carlo Cannon, who was there, he came out just to check on me, and then I started getting feeling like back in my fingers and whatever again. So that was good, but I was concussed. So sat the rest of the show just like backstage, like feeling like a moron until Obi drove me home later that night, and that was kind of it. But yeah, it was 2 weeks before I went to a doctor or anything because I was still getting like pains in my chest. And they're like, you should probably get an x-ray. And so I did. And he's like, yeah, you've got a hairline fracture in your sternum. And I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. So he's like, not much you can do about that anyway. So it's like, okay, sweet. And that was kind of it. But yeah, it was, if anyone, I blame myself for that because it was just one of those things where I look back at it now and go, well, if it was the wrong spot, I could have just, kicked Davis off as he was coming at me and backed him off and then gone for the move as normal. But just one of those things in the spur of the moment where you just do something and then instantly regret it. It's like, so that was it. And I thought that was it. And that was it until like 6 years later or something till the reunion show. So, yeah.
And then I think it was, what was it, maybe a year? I think it was 2012. And you were still on your run after the reunion show. You'd come back, you started running training, you were back with IPW after a 6-year break. And you had a couple matches under your belt. We're doing monthly shows there. I think we swapped venues maybe once or twice at that point. I think we'd stayed at, we'd swapped venues from Ashmore to Nerang where IPW runs now. And shortly thereafter we switched venues. I was approached by yourself and Hawk about the opportunity with working with you. Now I, at that point was, I was doing the superhero gimmick. I was doing the little, pretty much the little engine that could, the biggest little man persona, which I still sort of operate to a certain extent now. But I'd never fought anyone from back in the day that had the history that you had. I'd fought with Ash. I'd fought with Sweet Ass. I to this day, to this podcast recording right now, I still have never fought against Cruz. I think I'd fought against or Jackaroo, but it was like one of his other personas. I'd fought against Hawk and RIP and I think Scorn as well with Ash. But I think one of the veterans at that point, I don't think Lee Jethro was there at that stage. He came back, I think, later on.
Yep.
So I think I'd worked with Island Boy, but not to a heavy degree at that stage, and I hadn't worked with Dallas. But so I was basically, I remember being approached by you in the locker room, and you were saying to me, "Hey man, just letting you know that you and I are going to start doing a program." And I thought it was a rib. I legitimately sat there and I went, "This is a joke." And I went, "Oh yeah." And he went, "Nah, we're going to do probably about 2 or 3 shows worth, and it's going to be for the South Pacific," which was like the intercontinental sort of variant of the IPW belts at that point. And I remember going home that night and just completely freaking out. I think I got into a sweat. I started putting the tapes back in. I at that point, I converted all the VHS tapes to DVD. I put all the MIW tapes to DVD, and I had the individual files on my laptop at that point. And I remember studying the shit out of them, and I watched how hard you hit and kick, and I went, man, I'm not going to last more than – I think the bell's going to ring, and I'm just going to hit the floor. I do not know what to do with this guy. I'm completely out of my element, but it was all because of you, and you wanted to do this. So tell your side of the story. So how did this come about for you? Why did you decide to do a program with me, and what was the conversation like that you had?
Well, I just like working with people who I like, So
Fair enough. So why'd you choose me?
So whether it was at training or at shows when I got to know you and just talking to you and whatnot, I liked your kid, So it was, no, it's just one of those things. Like I just like I see people who I like, who also you can see that they've got a bit of drive and a bit of, I hate to overuse the word passion, but passion for having a good show. One of the hardest things I thought with IPW when Hawk was running it was just getting some continuity from show to show. It was always chopping and changing, so it was a really hard sell with Pete to try and get, you know, a 2 or 3 match run with someone where you could build and develop something. I think in the end we talked him into 2 matches plus like a run-in or something. So I think that's where we got it to, where you did the run-in on me after a match or something. I can't even remember whether I was like I called you out or whatever, but and I just see like where, you know, you've got chemistry with someone in real life. I think that translates really easily into a match in the ring.
Yeah.
Because you have the same sort of mindset or the same, you know, view or good ideas of where a match can go, where a program can go. And I just saw you as one of those people that, you know, liked the storytelling element of it, because you can, you know, there's so many stories to tell and interesting stories to tell, and it doesn't always just. Pete was very in the mindset of like the big guys have to wrestle the big guys and the little guys have to wrestle the little guys, sort of thing. And anything other than that was kind of like wouldn't work. So it was just one of those things where, you know, you want to try and, you know, prove to someone that they're wrong as well. And it's like these matches can work, as has been proven time and time throughout like history. And that's basically where it started. I've always tried to bring other people up as well, I guess, when I've been wrestling. Like, always try and do the right thing by putting people over or giving other people a rub or helping them get to the next level sort of thing as well. So I think part of it, that's where it came from too, because I saw that there was just a good story there to be told. I was a heel at the time. You were like ultimate babyface. I was like ultimate heel. It was just one of those ideas where you can go with this. So I can't remember the match it was that. I can't remember. No, it was. I don't know. You might remember it better than I do. I remember you coming out and choke slamming me as the first thing.
Yeah. No. What happened? I remember. So the matches was, I versed, I think, Wolfman, and it was I think it was a Halloween show or something, and I'd come out and I'd impersonated The Undertaker, and I'd won the match, and then after that you came out and hit the ring and went to shake my hand, and then you went to clothesline me, I ducked under and hit you with a choke slam, and that was and then we built to. Was
yours a number 1 contenders match or something? Was that?
I think it was something like that.
Must have been.
I think it was something like that.
For me to come
I think
out
you were sitting on stage. I think you were sitting on stage watching it.
Yeah, right.
And then I did the choke slam, and then on you, because you'd come in and went to shake my hand, like, yeah, cool, man, see you next month. And then you went to throw a line on me, I ducked it, and I hit you with a choke slam. And the next month we did the title match, and I remember we were the main, and
it was the best.
Yeah, I think we had a time limit, and I think behind closed doors.
5 minutes. It was the best.
No, we were given a time limit, and I remember we both said, "Oh, I think we can push an extra 5 or 10 on this," and we went for an extra 5 or 10. And I remember Hawk coming to pretty much to the equivalent of where the ring is, but against the back wall, and he was doing the cutthroat thing, like telling the referee to end.
No. You're a match ahead. You're a match ahead.
I was at the second one.
You're too far in the future. The second one we did like the 3-minute squash, where the title changed hands, and then the third one was the blow off, where I tried to like win it in the return match. But the second one, you won the title. I'm sure of it. It was like, did the big man, little man push off, and then something else, and then went down to my knees and said, like, I'll get down to your level sort of crap. And then you slapped me, you drop toe hold me to the ropes, 619, flash bang, and that was it.
Man, for a guy that has poor memory, you're remembering better than I do. I don't even remember that one.
I remember that match. And then the third one was the one where we pushed it.
Right.
But the one in between, that was one of my favorite things that I have done, because it was just one of those, because you were so over as a baby face, And I was pretty over as a heel. I'd argue close. I was probably the best heel at that stage. Mm-hmm. And you were the biggest baby at that stage. And it was just like, I said, we can do this in like just a few minutes. It'll be a shock. No one will expect it. Because the other thing that I hate about I don't want to call them indie shows, but like local shows, is that every match is 7 to 12 minutes, 7 to 12 minutes, 7 to 12 minutes, 7 to 12 minutes, main event, 20 to 30 minutes. And it's like, and that was kind of the pattern that like every show just like had. And it's understandable because like running one show once a month, back at that stage, it was like one of the only shows in town. You want to give your guys like enough time to go out there and do their thing and rah, rah, rah. And it's not always the best thing for the show, but that's just the way it went. And it was just like boring. And I was just like, we can like, let's just do this and just shock like everyone. No one will expect it.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome. And it was like, we just like slow build. It was just like, big man, little man, push off, flex my, do the flex, big man flex. Did something else, I can't remember, was it maybe like pushed you into a corner or something, and then did like the clean break, sportsmanship.
Oh, that's it, the sportsmanship. That stuck around for 4 months.
And then like, I'll make this fair on you, drop to my knees, talking trash. And then, slap, drop toe hold into the ropes, 619, flashbang, and that was it. And the crowd like popped like anything. It was awesome. It was so great.
Man, I
loved it.
I hope I have the tape of that. I hope I do.
I would love a tape of that because I have never even seen that. But I remember it. It was one of my favourites. I can't remember the next match too much apart from you dropping a chair on my head when I lifted you for a power bomb. But I can't remember much else of that match other than that.
I remember that point, and then I think someone threw water in the ring, and I remembered whispering to you, someone threw water in the ring, and you went, yeah, go on. And I went, go on what? And you go, spray me in the face with it. I'm like, really? And you're like, yeah, do it. So I Triple H sprayed you in the face with this water, and it got like a mad pop. And then I remember watching the footage back, and I'm like, I look like such a dick. All right, so that's the wrestling side of things. So shortly thereafter, did you stay on board that whole time until your last match? So you stayed there till about what, 2018? 2018?
Well, it's been, what year are we in? 2020.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, 2018.
Okay.
So it was like a 6-year run, that last one, I guess.
Now, before all this lockdown stuff, did you? Because I remember going and seeing the live shows before I myself was invited back, and you were still there with your notepad and still pitching in as much as you could at that time without physically being able to. Do you still do that now, or is that just sort of did life change for you and it doesn't allow you to go down there as much as you'd like to?
It's a combination of things. I've always, because of my profession, being a chef, I've always found it hard to get that Saturday night off to go and do a show. At some times it's been easier than others, but generally speaking, from about July through to December is very hard for me to get a show night off. Yeah. So it was a combination of that. After my injury back in 2018, I can't believe it's that long ago already.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Where I basically just destroyed my knee. I kind of just I didn't go into a dark place or anything like depression or anything like that, but I just kind of I did the next few shows with IPW and I just wasn't feeling it, mainly because I couldn't do anything. And be it, I like wrestling. I just can't stand at ringside and just be a manager or something, I've got to be doing it. And it was really frustrating not being able to do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just started to drift away from it with no real explanation to anyone. And then a couple of the things that were happening at IPW, I just wasn't really 100% on board with. I was starting to get, and because I was frustrated at the same time, it was kind of like compounded. And then like a couple of other people there, another guy took some time off because of something that happened and he didn't like it. And that kind of got me like more sort of agitated about it.
Right.
And I just kind of, I feel bad about the way, to be honest, and I haven't told anyone this,
okay.
But I kind of feel bad about the way I kind of left there a few years ago, because I kind of just did it without talking to anyone. I made a couple of snide remarks on like the Facebook page.
Yeah.
With the boys, which were probably, not unprofessional. I think they need to be said, but at the same time probably said it the wrong way.
Sure, yeah.
And just kind of then deleted the page from my account, so I couldn't see anything that was going on there anymore. Deleted like all the people on Facebook. I've got like 5 friends now. So anyone out there who said, hey man, we're not friends anymore, it's nothing personal. It's just, I just like got rid of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And just didn't say anything to anyone sort of thing. And just kind of just left.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it recently, but whether or not I do anything about it, I don't know. So yeah, it was kind of, it was just one of those things, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you're thinking about coming back. You're going to leave us on the hook. You're not going to give us too much more, but you're going to leave us with that cliffhanger of maybe, but never say never.
Don't call it a comeback. For one, I've put on like so much weight again. So I'm not in ring shape at all. So before I do anything or even think about anything, I've got to get fitter for a start.
Hey man, Bam Bam Bigelow was a huge dude. He could moonsault. So if BJ Blade comes back after a 4-year absence or a 6-year absence, and first move he does is a moonsault and still hits it, I got faith.
Yeah, no, I didn't hit it.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that part.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've just old injuries too, like just catching up. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I hate to like play the poor me card because that's not me at all. But I've got like broken toe. I've like broken 4 toes, like my big and my little toes on each foot. I've got currently got tennis elbow. I've broken fingers. I swear I've got a cracked rib from like Taekwondo, which like has healed in a weird way. So if I lie on my stomach, it is actually uncomfortable to lie on. Just like my neck and back and just things just like hurt, So, and being a bit of a fatty like doesn't help much either. Like with knees and stuff. My knee, I haven't really like sort of tested it out properly. I've only just sort of started like squatting properly on it, but that's just like body weight. It's like no weight, just because I'm not like real comfortable with like how stable it is.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's one of the, like I have a great angle for when I come, or not when I come back, but if I was to come back, I have like a great angle that I could like play off all of this sort of thing. But I don't know. It's kind of bitter. It's like a bitter ending for me, to be honest. Like that's why I don't like to sort of think of it as an ending yet.
Yeah.
But as I creep up to like 40 years old, sort of just if I don't do something soon, like it won't happen. So we'll see.
Man, self high five, 40 years old. You can still
yeah, that's true. But I don't use things as an excuse, like they're my own like undoings. But with work, kids, injuries, like it's all it's a compounded thing where I just don't know. I don't see a clear path back yet, even if there is one. So yeah, we'll see. And I've got a few bridges to mend, I think, too, before any of that happens. So
I feel you on the bridge mending, man. I feel you have to rebuild a goddamn village to come back to some points, man. But I feel you. It happens. It happens in due time. But you heard it here first. It ain't a comeback, and it's a never say never. but it's a when you feel like it. So, given the fact that we've talked about the wrestling career, we've been left on a damn cliffhanger. Like,
it pisses me off that like Lee has like had like 16 retirements and he's still wrestling. But you know, here I've never said I've retired.
Well, I'll make sure to bring that up to him next time I interview him.
Please do, because
see if I can get some clarity on that for you.
It might be 17 by like next time you see him. Like,
we're going. This went from a nice conversation about BJ's wrestling career to a goddamn shoot.
I've got to always rib Lee. He loves it.
Well, speaking of some clarity, man, we're going to do a deep dive because for the people out there that may or may not have known your wrestling career are now filled in, where we've gone through the origins, we've gone through the break, we've gone up to the most recent angle, and now we've been left on a cliffhanger as to when or where you may or may not come back. And if you do come back, we're definitely going to use a different word than come back because that's not allowed, and we don't have the license to clear that. So at this point in time, I'm going to take what I like to call this segment is we're going to do a deep dive, and it ain't a social media deep dive. We're going to go through your photos or anything like that. We're going to do a deep dive on you and then you, the person. So this is. I
don't know if you like what you find, Flash.
Man, I've done some deep dives before, and I didn't mind the wreckages and I didn't mind the treasures. So I'm happy to find either way, man. But
all right.
You ready for this? You ready for this deep dive?
All right, shoot.
All right. So the first question I've got for you, man, is have you faced any hurdles in your life, and how did you overcome them? Like what? And I don't mean like list 1 to 10 every hurdle you've been through, but is there a major hurdle that you remember facing in your life at that point where you went, "This is something I've never ever faced before, and I'm not sure how to overcome it," but you did. And what was it, and how did you overcome it?
I certainly look back on some aspects of my life and think, could I have done something differently?
Yeah.
But as far as like a hurdle, I don't know. I wouldn't say like I've had any massive like.
Would meeting your wife and being engaged and having a wedding and having kids, not in a negative aspect of a hurdle, but was that a big hurdle to sort of digest and sort of absorb and change your life for the better at the most part? Was that a difficult thing?
Having kids was like a massive thing because my wife is 4 years older than me. She looks like she's still in her 20s, that's for sure. And me, I look like I'm probably like even my kids say like, "You look older than Mum, Dad." I'm like, "Yeah,
wow.
Thank you, thank you."
Nothing but love in the Blade household.
Yeah, no, they're all good. I just like powerbomb them when they annoy me.
Jesus.
Let's delete that.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. You can leave it in. It's all just jokes. No, so her kind of biological clock, I guess, was ticking a little ahead of mine. So she was kind of ready and I was not sure. So,
right. Okay.
But like anything in life, I guess you just got to dive in. Like, you know, people say, not yet. It's not the right time. It's like, well, when is the right time? Like, yeah, sometimes you just got to just roll with the punches, man, and just go for it, I suppose. So, okay. My kids are awesome. Like, I love them to death. My daughter's like 13 now and my son's 9. My daughter's in like year 8 in high school, which just is scary and blows my mind. Like, because, yeah, I dread the things that we're going to be dealing with in the next few years now.
Yeah.
And, you know, and she's just got a smartphone and crap like that. So that's going to be a hurdle.
Well, feel free to ring up a couple of the old school boys, and the next time she gets her first boyfriend, we'll all answer the door with you, man.
Yeah, I love that line from Bad Boys, where it's like, I don't know, I can't crap at quoting movies, but basically the kid comes to the door, he's like, "How old are you, Marcus?" or whatever his name is, and he's like, 16, sir, or whatever it was, and it's like, shit, you look at least 35.
Have you seen the new Bad Boys?
No, I have not. Have you?
Okay, well, yes, for a slight spoiler for the people out there and a little bit of spoiler for you, they find and they bring back Marcus.
Ah, amazing. Who's Marcus?
So he's the kid that.
Oh, it is.
His
I got the
reference.
name right. Okay, awesome.
Well, I hope it's Marcus. I don't know, but the kid you're referring to in that scene, they find that actor and they bring him back again. Okay, so that was a positive hurdle you faced in your life. It was something new. You're ready, and you absorbed it now, and it's a part of your life, and you wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And that's amazing because there's so many people out there that share the same sentiment. But it's an interesting insight to hear from you to hear that wasn't so sure originally, but now it's like this is the best thing in the world. So that was one thing. But my next question is, you've always given advice to people, whether it be professionally or with the hobby of pro wrestling. So I'm sure in your career as a chef, you're giving advice to people like, hey, don't overcook that, leave that in there for a bit more, change that display, don't use that much ingredient, this, that, the other. But for yourself, not as either as a wrestler, I mean, I guess the wrestling kind of aspect would just be try this move, do that differently, slow this down, speed that up. But for you as a person, what is the best advice that you have ever received? And did it change you?
My dad said to me once, don't sell yourself short.
Right.
And that, I think, is great advice. I'm not like actually the most confident person, to be honest. Like if I'm with a group of people who I know and I'm comfortable around, then yeah, I'm kind of can have a good laugh and like be, I don't know, a personality, I guess. Yeah. But you put me in a group of strangers and I'm like really quiet. Like I don't like being sort of not the center of attention, but like I don't like attention on me. Okay. I'll kind of like be the person who'll stand at the back of like a group photo sort of thing. Like I don't want to stand at the front sort of thing. And confidence I think is one of those things that I try and work on, like being more confident. But I guess more recently, like since having a family where you are, I guess you're not only just fighting for yourself anymore, but you're fighting for people who are close to you and who love you. Yeah. When it's come to like jobs or, negotiating a wage or something like that, I always try and take that advice into it, where if you know what you're worth, you can't let people sort of tell you what you're worth. You've got to know what you're worth and go in there with that confidence to say, well, this is what I'm worth. I'm not going to sell myself short on this. Like, this is what I deserve and this is what I want. So what you're going to give me, motherfucker? No, it's not like that. But yeah, it kind of is. It's sort of like, you've got to put value in yourself. So yeah. That's, I think, was probably the best piece of advice he'd ever given me. Everything else was like fucking shit, but.
So yeah. Did that apply to your current field of being a chef? And when did the chefing come into that? Was that during your first or the second break of wrestling? Or was that sort of byline the whole time?
No. Chefing I've done since I was like 16 years old. Like it was, I worked.
So that was there while during the your wrestling experiences and discovery.
Oh yeah. He was my dad wasn't really a role model. He was one of those people who'd say like, do as I say, don't do as I do. And it's like that's because I know I carry so many of his traits too, which is the worst thing, because I try and like not be like how he was in like to my kids, but sometimes you kind of sometimes it kind of slips because it's just, it's the way that you were brought up and it's ingrained in you and whatever. But, I'm trying to be, I'm not trying to be, I am better for them than what he was for me. But that was one piece of advice which he gave me, which sort of did stick. So yeah, but that's always been there. I started chefing when I was straight out of high school at like 17 years of age. So, okay. I've been doing that for a long time.
Right.
What was the question?
No, that was the question. My question was, did the chefing happen during wrestling or did it happen during the breaks? But it happened before you even started wrestling. You're always interested in cooking and doing
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question is, who to you, and you can feel free to say no if you don't have them, but with chefing and with wrestling, do you have any inspirations or heroes? And if you do, why do you hold them in such high regard? So I already know that Ultimate Warrior is a...
No.
Oh, come on, man. You read his article in the WWF magazine. You wanted to go.
I hated the Warrior. I hated Hogan. I hated Tito Santana. I hated...
What about Savio Vega? Look out!
Hated Savio Vega.
Oh, no.
I hated any of the baby faces, really. I was very much a heel person. Although I did love Bret Hart, like, regardless of whether he was heel or face. And Michaels.
Yep.
But I always leant towards the heels. Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect. God, even Bob Backlund, like when he was doing that psycho gimmick, like I really loved Owen Hart. Yeah, Bobby the Brain, like all those guys. I loved all them.
What about in chefing? Do you have any idols in chefing?
I enjoy watching a lot of chefing programming.
Okay.
As far as I don't really have any idols in chefing. I really like, I really dig watching Gordon Ramsay shows.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But then, they've become too Americanized with television. Yeah. I think the earlier ones where they were like just him in Britain were like really good. They were a bit more authentic. I like watching Jamie Oliver's stuff. I liked watching Anthony Bourdain's stuff.
Yep.
Idols though, I'm like a chef. Everyone like, oh, you must make delicious food and stuff like all the time. It's like, no, most days I just make cheeseburgers and Caesar salad. It's not always glamorous. It's. A lot of it's just repetition of just the same old shit every day sort of thing. I've never worked in any fine dining restaurants or anything like that. I'm not some Michelin chef or anything. I'm just old mate chef. Just, roast potatoes and meat or a lamb shank or a palmy. That's me. I can do some of the really nice stuff, but I haven't made my career on that sort of thing. And I've hadn't really especially recently, any motivation to. Earlier on when I was younger, I used to, when I first started, we had a fine dining restaurant. And I used to stay back after my shift and watch all the other guys work and stuff until I actually got in there and worked a couple of months in fine dining.
Yeah.
But the place where I worked at kind of just they shut the fine dining restaurant and then they shut their Japanese restaurant, and it just kind of became just like a normal sort of cafe sort of thing. So a lot of the stuff that I've done has kind of just been me. Or stuff that I've read out of a recipe book that I want to try to do. But I wouldn't say it, again, the word passion, I hate it, but I wouldn't say that the passion of chefing has gone for me, but I'm certainly not as driven to, I don't know, go any further and higher up in my career with it sort of thing. Yeah.
So you're happy with where you're at?
Yeah. It pays the bills, mate. Now, honestly, it's just, I like it. I'm good at it. Do I love it? Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy the people I work with, but do I love it? If I was good at anything else, or if anything else I could do could pay the bills, then I'd probably do something else.
Okay.
But at this stage of my life, nearly 40, it's sometimes I think it's too late to start over. Yeah. Because you've got bills and school fees and, if I was single and had no responsibilities, then maybe it would be different. But for now, it's just get the bills paid, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
Make that palmy.
Makes that palmy money.
Yeah.
Now, there's a question I've always wanted to ask, because as a professional chef as you are, and it's probably a cliche question to be asked a lot of times, but I figured for this podcast I'd want to ask you because I'd get a straight answer with it. You spend relatively all day cooking and preparing either individual or different or the same meal over and over again, depending on what the menu entails on that day, depending if there's a special function or just a basic round-the-mill kind of restaurant procedure. When you come home to your family, do you hate cooking? Do you get takeout, or what's the go with that?
No, I do most of the cooking at home.
Okay.
It's funny at our place because my wife, she's really
pay the bills?
yeah, my wife, she's really sort of like strict with what she eats. My son is really fussy with what he eats. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of just me and my daughter that will just have whatever dad's cooking sort of thing. So, we don't do much takeout. Like, I love making pizza, mm-hmm. and I make the dough from scratch, and like, I've just started making the sauce from scratch as well, which is pretty cool. But so I love making pizza, but it's just normal stuff, man. It's like spaghetti bolognese, pizza, salad, mostly vegetarian because meat's just too expensive, so if it's usually a bit of mince or chicken breast or something. I love chicken. I love chicken.
That'll be the quote we take away from this podcast. BJ Blade, quote, fuck, I love chicken.
I'll easily roast a chicken and then like eat a whole chicken. It's probably why I'm such a fat fuck.
We cracked the code.
Yes.
The poultry has it out for you.
But yeah, I can cook. Like, I'm not saying I can't cook or I'm a shit chef. Like, I'm fucking good, man. Like, don't you worry. But I think that's a problem. I sometimes wonder if I wouldn't have a weight problem if I didn't know how to cook. Because, like, one, would I just be cooking simpler stuff, which, is just basic shit because that's all I can cook?
Yeah.
Or would I just be, like, eating takeout and stuff all the time? So would I be worse off? I don't know what the answer is to that, but I know, but because I can cook, I'll be like, yeah, butter makes that taste better. Yeah, bacon makes that taste better. Yeah, a bit of cream in that sauce, that'll make that taste better. You know what I mean? So I just kind of I just like making tasty stuff. Like, so,
more soothing.
Yeah, coming to terms with that, like, it's not always like butter's getting expensive now too, man. Like, you can't always afford that shit. So
yeah, that damn stuff's getting close to $8.
That might be a good thing, so, but just whatever's going. Like tonight we had poke bowls, so that was nice. A bit of salmon, bit of cucumber, carrot, some rice, some salmon. It was good.
Double up on that salmon, eh?
Hey?
Double up on that salmon, hey?
Yes, double up. Good omega-3s, mate.
Then had an entire roast chicken to himself.
Yeah, I'll be like going to the fridge later on. It's like, what is there to snack on? Bread and peanut butter.
I'll stick with the roast chicken.
Jam? Oh, there's no jam. Honey? Oh, none of that either. Oh, hang on. Maple syrup.
Jeez.
It's sad, man. It's sad. I need help.
But he loves cooking.
Yeah. But no, it's pretty basic at home.
All right, this is the part of the podcast now which I like to call the Lipton 6. This is in tribute of James Lipton, who sadly we lost earlier this year in March 2020. He was an American writer, lyricist, actor, and the dean of the Actors Studio Drama School at Pace University in New York City, where he hosted and ran his TV show Inside the Actors Studio from 1994 to 2018. So, in honor and tribute of him, I'm going to ask you his famous 6 questions that he would ask all his guests before wrapping up his interview. So you ready for the Lipton 6?
Yeah, shoot, man. Let's do this.
All right. So first question is, what is your favorite word?
Are these meant to be fast questions? I love so many words. Absolutely. I love absolutely. I say absolutely a lot.
What turns you on?
My wife.
Good. What sound or noise do you love?
I certainly don't love. I can tell you the noise that I don't love, and that's the alarm on my phone going off in the morning. That sounded shit. Let's leave it at that.
Okay. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck. Very versatile.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Pro wrestling. No, I have recently been thinking about maybe trying to transition into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching.
Okay. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Sure, you can come inside.
All right, so here we go. Here's the final four. This is it. We're going to wrap this up. This has been an exciting journey. I've learned a lot about one of my really good friends in life. And now we're going to finish up with the final four. So here we go, final four. Was there ever a point where you thought, hey, this isn't going to work? Now, you can say that professionally or personally, but there was ever a point that you reached, whether it be in wrestling, whether it be with chef, whether it be with your family, where you thought, hey, I don't know if this is going to work?
Yeah, actually, just at Christmas time when I had to make like 120 fucking bomb Alaskas for a function, and it took me about 8 hours to do because I'd never made them on that scale before. So, yeah, man, that was a frustrating day. I did not think that was going to work, but it did because I'm a genius.
Oh, God. All right. Have you ever stopped and thought, how the hell did I get here? Now, that could be with wrestling.
Only when listening to David Byrne sing Once in a Lifetime.
Okay.
David Byrne, lead singer of the famous group Talking Heads.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. You can't see this because it's a podcast, but BJ just winked and clicked for the Talking Heads reference. All right.
I often think, how did I get here? Some days I wake up and just be like, the hell, especially when I look at my wife, because like she's so beautiful, and I'm like, I'm not. And yeah, I did well there. Definitely batting above average.
Okay. Well, this might be the same answer, but currently, what is your proudest moment or achievement?
Definitely marrying my wife and having my 2 kids.
Okay.
They're awesome. I love them so much. They're just, they're awesome.
If you had said bomb Alaskas, I would have punched you through this microphone. Now, my final of the final four. So you started your wrestling career at about 19 or 20, and you're now borderline hitting 40, vaguely. Looking back at the age you are now, back to where you first started wrestling, thinking back then about 19 or 20, and you're now close to 40, did you think back then when you were 19 or 20 that this would where you'd be at 40? Like, could you ever imagine the life you're having now, being a husband, being a father, being a successful chef, having the impact that you've had on the Australian wrestling scene? Could you ever have imagined that close to 19, 20 years ago, that this is where you'd be?
No.
Well, that'll do it. Is that so? Are you happy with where you've ended up? Like, could you ever have thought, man, I didn't even think I'd ever be married or be a chef, but here I am. I'm a chef. I'm a successful chef, successful wrestler, father, and husband.
I wouldn't. I certainly
think that's a big accomplishment to make in 20 years' time. That's a big accomplishment to make.
Yeah, I mean, time goes fast. Time goes fast. Like, stuff can change in a blink of the eye. So, if you were to tell me 20 years ago that this is where it'd be, then, everyone says I probably wouldn't believe it, but I probably wouldn't. Like, I'm very fortunate. I feel like I've got a good life. I wouldn't change any of it. My wife would be married 12 years just this last March. So, I mean, that's an accomplishment. My kids, my daughter's, in high school, my son, both like just awesome kids. They're do really well at school. I mean, I've got a steady job up until like a week ago. So we'll see what happens there. But I've been very fortunate, man. But I wouldn't change anything. But if you'd have told me like this is where I'd be, then I can't even tell you where I'll be like next week. so life's cool. Is that better?
That'll be the quote on the shirt. Life's cool.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up the podcast, man, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all you've done for the industry. Thank you what you've done for me professionally. I don't think I could ever repay you for taking that chance of working with someone like me. It really broadened my eyes onto how to perceive myself in the ring, how to pace myself in the ring. You complemented the rattling of in my brain of wrestling storytelling. You soothed the angst that I had as to how I piece things together. And yourself, along with the other old school guys, they know who they are. There's so many to name, but you really influenced me amongst the others as well. And I'm so fortunate and lucky to know you, to call you a friend, to extend that to being a brother. And I thank you for all that you've done. And I wish you nothing but further success and less bomb Alaskas in the future.
That's really sweet, man. I appreciate it, Flash. It's been fun catching up. As far as all my accolades, and I appreciate them. I think you're being a bit generous. I don't think I've done that much.
Humble to the end. Humble to the end.
Well, you've got to be. I don't take... not to continue the conversation on for any longer, but I don't take any credit for anyone's success in anything that people do in life. I feel like that is off the back of their own work. You can certainly help guide people, but I wouldn't take credit for anyone's success. Not even some of the young guys today who are coming up. Like certainly have helped train them and whatever, but they're doing it on their own, and it's great to see.
Well, man, it's only with your guidance and leadership these guys have the willpower and the mindset to continue wrestling. So on behalf of them, BJ, thank you so much for being part of this podcast, and I'll catch you down the road.
Thanks, Flash. It was awesome. Cheers, mate.
So there you have it. Conversation with BJ Blade is in the books. I appreciate you all listening in. I hope that was an interesting little tale for you. I sure as hell learned a lot about my dear friend BJ Blade. For those listening, make sure you hit up Little Man Big Conversations on the Facebook, Little Man Big Conversation, and on Instagram at LMBC Podcast, and on Twitter at LMBC_podcast. Thanks so much for listening this week, and I'll see you on the regular schedule next week.